Today we're going to make the best red velvet pound cake with a cream cheese glaze. It is the perfect pound cake texture. It's dense, but still really moist and tender on the inside with that nice crunch on the outside. And then there's like a little tang and a little sweetness from the cream cheese glaze. It is mind-blowingly good. Let's get into it. So, first step, prepare our pan. I think you know by now that if we're using a decorative mold of sorts, we are going to spray or butter and line our pan with, and then dust it with flour or cocoa powder, depending on the cake. But, you know I like to do this on a piece of parchment because I don't like cleaning up things that I don't have to clean up. Step 1, spray. Make sure you get all those nooks and crannies, but you don't want too much because then you'll get like clumps. Ew. And you know what clumps do? They stick. Then we are going to just put a generous amount of flour in our pan. I like to make sure I try and like get some on the center little nubbin because otherwise it's kind of hard to get. So, and then we're just going to go ahead and tap, tap, tap all the way around, getting every single nook and cranny. Now this pan is kind of specific, and so I'm going to go both directions because it's got nooks and crannies in both directions. Pretty good. Now that's a lot of flour. Correct. So we are going to tap that out. Give it a slam. Oh, yes you did. No. Maybe wear an apron. I don't know. But we have a beautifully floured pan. So, and jeans. All right, and now we're gonna mix our cake. So, I have already put my butter in here and given it a twirl about with the torch because you know me and I did not think ahead. And so I had cold butter. It was actually frozen butter, so even worse. But now she is soft and pliable and she's a little bit cold to the touch, which is what you want because you want a cream, we're creaming, but you don't want to incorporate too much air. You don't want this to be light and fluffy. We want a nice dense pound cake. So the way you get that is by not over creaming your butter and sugar. We've got our butter already in there and we are gonna whisk together our dry ingredients. AP flour, cocoa powder, which is what originally gave red velvet cake its color. Baking soda, just a tiny, tiny bit, not a lot, just enough. And then a bit of kosher salt. Whisk those together. All right, now we've got our butter that is perfectly temped. We have got some sugar. And then some light brown sugar. Get in there, yeah. Okay, go ahead and give that like a quick twirl. You don't want to turn on because it's a lot of sugar, so it might just... Now I'm going to go ahead and give this a scrape because my butter was kind of like all on the sides, and I want to make sure that everybody is playing nicely together. Now we're going to turn it off. Oh. Now remember, we're not creaming this until light and fluffy. We're just kind of basically creaming it to combine. We're going to make a paste, and then when we would normally let that paste kind of, you know, separate and kind of fluff up a bit, we are not going to do that today. All right, great. You see how it is kind of thick? I'll take some out, show you. It is like a paste. It's thick. It's perfect. Turn that back on. And we're going to add our eggs. It's a decent amount of eggs. You want to get them all in there. You want to beat them in. Now is not the time to be shy about that. I'm adding one at a time. I want to give each one its time in the mixer. Now, would it be ideal if your eggs were room temperature? Totally. But I can tell you right now that my room temperature is it's kind of like a refrigerator, so I don't really think they had a fair shake. Go ahead and scrape this down. Now it has curdled a little bit, my batter, because the eggs were cold. So that's just what's going to happen, and we know this, and it's going to be fine. I'm not stressed. You shouldn't be stressed. All right, so we are gonna add our vanilla extract, and then we are gonna very, very carefully add our red food dye. It's gonna look really, really aggressive at this stage. Know that it'll all be okay. You can omit it. It'll basically just be a light chocolate cake. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and give that a good scrape. Make sure that all the bottom layers have also been done a bright, bright red. Now, we are going to alternately add our sour cream and our dry ingredients. So go ahead and pop that back up and shield yourself from being blinded by the redness. And just go ahead and turn that on low and start to add your dry and wet ingredients. Does it matter the order in which you do so? No. Just get them in there. Don't dilly-dally. Ooh, girl, it's gonna be so pretty. Can't wait. Can't wait. Get all of that in there. This is like a deep red, right? I don't love adding so much food dye that you're gonna get like that like shocking red cake. Not in love with that. Mix your batter in. Not usually in love with searing, which is kind of what you call that, where you turn it really high and then turn it down. But with the red dye, it helps kind of get that last little bit like in there. If you sear too long, if you turn it up too long, then you're gonna get tunneling in your cake, you're gonna get an over-mixed cake, and that's sad and we don't want that. But we do want a beautifully mixed cake batter, which is what we have, my friends. And she's gonna be gorge. Now, we have our pan that we've beautifully prepared, and we have our batter. So I'm going to go ahead and just get this luscious red batter into our pan. I'm not gonna be too persnickety about how I do it. I'm just gonna kind of, go about and add dollops in. Make sure that you have gotten all of the butter sugar situation off of the bottom because, that'll bake kind of funny. Oh my gosh, this is making me so hungry. It's not okay. Oh yeah, that's good. My goodness, yum. Our cake batter is in here. We are stoked about it. And we are going to use the back of a spoon because I learned the last time, yeah, look at me learning, that it is easier with these like weird fluted situations. So go ahead and just, kind of spread it out a bit. It will spread out as it bakes, but it's not gonna redistribute itself completely. So if you bake it with huge lumps, it's going to have huge lumps. And if you just give it a nice little gentle spreading, she'll fill in the rest. Okay, so now I've preheated my oven to 325 degrees convection. If you don't have convection, don't turn it up, just do 325. It might just take a little bit longer, you might get a little extra crust on the outside. No love will be lost, promise. This is gonna bake, she hefty, okay? So it's gonna bake at least an hour and 15, probably closer to an hour and a half. But in about 45 minutes, I'm gonna start checking her with a cake tester and I'll check back in with you guys. And we're out. She baked about an hour and 15 minutes and I poked a cake tester in the center and pulled it out and it came out clean completely. Obviously when I pressed on the sides as well, it feels firm, like kind of set. It doesn't feel hard because then you overbaked your cake, but it does feel set and it no longer feels like, just an indent and stay. So now we're just gonna let this cool about 30 minutes before we turn it out. And then we'll let it cool completely after that. Mirror, I know. All right, it has been 30 minutes, a little bit more than 30 minutes, but who's counting? And we are gonna turn this cake over and pray. Oh, excuse you. What do you know? Here she is. So now we just have to let her cool. It's gonna take like an hour and a half. I know, mirror. So we have our glaze, our cream cheese glaze, or vanilla if you prefer. And we've got our cake, which is completely cool and super beautiful. And then we're going to choose your favorite cake stand or cake plate, or really anything is fine. And then we're going to place it on here. Now, I am going to carve a bit of the tush off of my cake because it is, you know, she's voluptuous. I want her to lay nice and flat on the cake stand, and she's not going to. But don't worry, because I am going to use those scraps in a trifle. So fear not. All right, go ahead and just, it's actually easier to do this on the cooling rack than it is to do it on the cake stand, because then you don't get a whole bunch of crumbs on your cake stand. All right, so we've got our cake completely. Ooh, do you see how beautiful red that is? I do. We're gonna take the top portion of our cake and place her so gently and lovingly on our cake stand. Oh, look how gorgeous she is. Et voila, look at her. Now you could dust it with powdered sugar, you could dust it with cocoa powder, you could pour a simple vanilla glaze on top, but we are going to pour a cream cheese glaze on top. I really just want it to be thick enough to kind of get in those ridges, but not kind of cover the whole thing. Sure, you could pour this all on there willy-nilly, but like, where's the fun in that? Also, whoever gets that center, like, they're just gonna like scoop up all the beautiful glaze and then like, Wah! She's stunning. I'm just saying. All right. It's time to try. I mean, technically, maybe we should let our glaze set, but like, do we have to? I don't know. Fine, we'll let it set a little bit, and then we will cut her. It's time to try the moment I have been waiting for all day, since this cake filled my apartment with like chocolatey goodness. I am ready, clearly. All right, so I let the glaze set about 30 minutes just to kind of give it a little crust so it just doesn't like, you know, volcano itself out. Even though there is a decent amount in the center, it's probably going to volcano, but that's just a term I just made up, so you're welcome. I cannot wait to see the color of this cake. I mean, we already saw it, let's be honest. There was a spoiler alert with the bottom, but I mean, I would want like a generous slicing of this cake, so yeah, we do. Do you see that? Oh my goodness, look at that perfect red. Wow, with a nice, dense, perfect pound cake crumb. Oh, we have arrived. We have arrived. It is so soft, so tender, and so moist with that beautiful, like light cocoa taste. With the tang from the cream cheese and like the little extra sweetness from the glaze. Oh wow, this is phenomenal. Phenomenal. Yes. Heaven is here.